And we begin tonight with the panic that seems to be setting in inside MAGA world, where Vice President Harris and Governor Tim Walz's polls, TV ratings, and momentum are causing what can only be described as anxiety, doubt, and nothing short of a freak out on the pro-Trump side. It is so grim over there. Senator Lindsey Graham spent part of his weekend interview with CNN's Jake Tapper arguing that joy itself isn't real. On Friday, Eric Bolling, who lost his job at Fox due to his rampant sexual harassment of his colleagues, making him a perfect Trump acolyte, then lost his gig at Tiny Newsmax for some reason I honestly don't care enough to research, had a full-on meltdown over the ratings of last week's Democratic convention, in which this network beat his old network.
We're losing. We're losing the race. We're losing the presidency. So no one's watching Newsmax. Fox is now getting beat by MSNBC. They're trying to say that the Democrats are the patriots, the party that's worried about the country. They're wearing camo hats with Kamala Harris's name on it. Camouflage, that's ours.
They're wearing camo hats. Yeah, okay, that's right. Yeah, the party of Trump, who disparaged U.S. service members and veterans as suckers and losers, owns camo. Yeah, buddy, okay. The Trump camp honestly just cannot seem to catch a break. In Michigan, authorities are investigating whether a local sheriff who hosted Trump for a quasi-rally violated the law against using state resources for political reasons. Even more troubling for Trump's ego, musicians continue to deny him their songs. The rock band Foo Fighters joined the long list of A-list music artists telling Trump to stop using their music, with a spokesperson telling Billboard, quote, Foo Fighters were not asked permission, and if they were, they would not have granted it, adding that appropriate actions are being taken against the campaign, and any royalties received as a result of this usage will be donated to the Harris-Walz campaign. Beyonce also sent a cease and desist to Donald Trump's campaign for its use of the song Freedom without permission on a social music video. And Trump will have to face the Isaac Hayes estate in court on September 3rd as their $3 million lawsuit over the Trump campaign's unauthorized use of the Hayes-written classic Hold On, I'm Coming goes to court for an emergency hearing. The hits just keep coming, even as the Trump campaign can't use any actual hits. See what I did there? MAGA is losing the culture war. Because guess what? Modern folks in the year of our Lord 2024 refuse to go back. Book banning school board candidates backed by Moms for Liberty and Ron DeSantis lost races in Florida. And in Oklahoma, some school districts are flat out rejecting the state superintendent's order that they place a Bible in every classroom and teach lessons out of it, or else face repercussions. The school superintendent in the Bixby School District, a Christian former Marine Corps artilleryman who is against the order, told the Associated Press, and I quote, if there is no curricular standard that ties with that particular classroom, what would be the purpose of a Bible, if not for pure indoctrination? It's a solid question. Meanwhile, Trump running mate J.D. Vance continues to struggle. Here he is trying to explain away his miserable, childless cat ladies diss of millions of American women on Meet the Press on Sunday.
Look, I regret certainly that a lot of people took it the wrong way, and I certainly regret that the DNC and Kamala Harris lied about it.
But do you regret what you said, Senator?
Look, Kristen, I'm going to say things from time to time that people disagree with. I'm a real person. I'm going to make jokes. I'm going to say things sarcastically. I think that it's much more important for me to just be a normal human being who sometimes says things that people disagree with. I have a lot of regrets, Kristen, but making a joke 3 years ago is not in the top 10 of the list.
Yeah, that wasn't good. And speaking of white male nominees withering in front of black women, Trump suggested last night that he might weasel out of the ABC debate with VP Harris, hurling complaints over fake news, blah, blah, blah. It's boring. But this is how you know that things are really bad, when Trump and Vance seem to be ditching their anti-abortion Christian right allies, with Trump posting this lie on Dime Store Twitter, and I quote, my administration will be great for women and their reproductive rights. Trump posted that on Friday, which in his brain was opposite day. You can also chalk it up to Trump being a gaslighter, a liar, and a con. But then you have to also have Vance spinning this yarn. You also have Vance spinning this yarn again on Meet the Press.
I've been talking to Republicans, including Senator Lindsey Graham just last week, who've made it very clear that if Donald Trump is elected, if you are elected, they will continue to press this point. Senator Graham said to me, I'm going to keep saying that there should be a federal ban. If such a piece of legislation landed on Donald Trump's desk, would he veto it?
Well, I think it'd be very clear he would not support it. I mean, he said that explicitly. Yeah, I mean, if you're not supporting it as the president of the United States, you fundamentally have to veto it.
So he would veto a federal abortion ban?
I think he would. He said that explicitly, that he would.
Yeah, James David. See, the problem with that is that between Project 2025, which proposes renaming the Department of Health and Human Services the Department of Life, explicitly rejecting the notion that abortion is health care, and the existence of the Comstock Act, which Trump could use to ban all abortions nationwide without the need for congressional action, and Trump's previous bragging about terminating Roe v. Wade, no one believes y'all. Well, that is, except for the National Review, which posted this dejected, very sad article over the weekend accusing their godhead of abandoning his forced birth followers, prompting NFL kicker and evangelical proselytizer Harrison Butker to beseech J.D. Vance to pull a Mike Pence without the hanging part and drag Trump back onto Team Gilead. Trump and Vance have clearly seen the enemy. And it is not just former President Obama, whose crowd size and other size joke apparently broke his brain last week, as did Mrs. Obama's powerful speech, which has spawned an actual hit TikTok song. No, the real enemy is Kamala Harris, who with her running mate, Coach Walz, is launching a bus tour across Georgia on Wednesday, concluding with a Thursday rally around Savannah. Trump can't seem to figure out how to deal with Kamala Harris and the voters that she and Coach Walz are attracting to their upbeat campaign, particularly women. As polling expert Tom Bonnier pointed out over the weekend, the explosion of voter registrations by women is clearly being driven by legitimate fears of how much more miserable and exhausting and deadly a second time Trump ruled America could get, particularly as compared to the prospect of an America fueled by freedom and joy. And joining me now is Tom Bonnier, political strategist and senior advisor for Target Smart. Jen Psaki, host of Inside with Jen Psaki and former press secretary in the Biden White House, and MSNBC political analyst Basil Smikle. Thank you all for being here. Tom, you have been invoked, and so I'm going to start with you. I would normally do ladies first, but I'm going to start with you, Tom. You tweeted about and prompted us to call you. You tweet, we call you. And about this explosion of women registering to vote and the resulting gender gap. Can you please explain?
I'd be happy to. This really caught me by surprise because we're always looking at the registration trends. I know we're all obsessed with polling. I am too. But we know that polling doesn't tell the whole story. The more important data is that individual level data that's showing us the actions people are taking. So the question that we asked of the data was, could we see something that happened after July 21st with the candidate change? And what I saw was honestly shocking. We saw gender gaps in new registration data across the country, in every state that we've looked at that has updated their file already, which is many, that were exceeding the post-Dobbs gender gaps that we saw. And we know those were bigger than any that had been seen before. And so we're talking about battleground states like Michigan and North Carolina, where it's not just little differences. It's women registering at a significantly higher rate than they were prior to that or that they were 4 years ago at the same period of time, especially younger women and women of color.
And Tom, just to be clear, I mean, women tend to vote at higher rates than men. I'm right about that, correct? In general, right? And across sort of racial dynamics. So are these polling differences, are they taking into account race and gender? Because we know that black women are overwhelmingly Democrats. So if 100 black women register to vote, 95 of them are going to vote Democratic. For white women, it's much more, lately it's been like 47% Democratic and 52 the other way, 53 the other way. Are the dynamics of race kind of in play here in terms of these voter registrations, or can we even tell?
Well, yeah, it's an important additional point to this. In a lot of these states, they have partisan registration. And so what we're seeing is that it's not just more women registering, it's more Democratic women. In states that don't have partisan registration, our teams have built partisan models. In the state of Michigan, it's plus 20 Democratic in terms of these people who are registering to vote or have registered to vote since the vice president ascended to the top of the ticket. You mentioned polling. That's a big concern here. Every pollster has to come up with a likely voter model to predict who's going to vote. Are these women included in these likely voter models? At this point, the likely answer is no.
See that, and Jen, I want to go to you on that, because that's the thing, is that people who are getting obsessed with these polls, even, look, my kids are texting me about polls at this point. Everyone is very much fixated on them. But it's hard to really suss out how accurate they are. I'll just read you a couple. This is New York Times Siena, the notorious, we read it a lot, although I have deep doubts about it. Women, Trump 39, women, Harris 56. Men, it's the other way around, Trump 55, 40. You look at stuff like that, or the battleground poll, Arizona, Georgia, Nevada, North Carolina, same gender gap. Women, women Trump 40, women Harris 55, 56, 38 the other way when it comes to men. But it's very hard to look at those and not take into account which women and which men are going to vote.
That's true. I mean, every polling's imperfect. Every poll is a bet on who the electorate is going to be, right? And it doesn't mean it's betting correctly on who the electorate is going to be. And what we've seen, this is why when you compare, when there are polls or analysis that's comparing 2020 voters to who they are and who they're with to now, is missing 2022 when the Dobbs decision came out, and that completely enraged women across the country. So what you hear when you talk, and I know you talk to a lot of these people too, Joy, people who are running organizations like Emily's List or organizations that are focused on abortion rights and reaching these women, what they tell you is that these women are undercounted. And that we see that in special elections. We've seen that in the midterm elections, because this is an issue where it's hard for people to bet on what percentage of the electorate is going to turn out who otherwise wouldn't have.